I want to know what you would do for $10 million. Not $1 million, not $2 million, but $10 million. I'm talking like, the mega jackpot. You paid whatever it is, the $2, or I don't even know what it costs to get in the mega. You play it every week, don't you, John? What is it? Yeah. It's whatever's on that billboard, as you drive down I-35. $10 million. What would you do if somebody came up and said, listen, today, if you'll do this, I'm going to give you $10 million. And you say, man, I'd do a lot of things for $10 million. Would you skydive for $10 million? I mean, you're scared of heights, right? And it just terrifies you to get into a plane. All the kids in the audience, they're like, I would skydive for $10 million. I would pass out and whatever as I was dropping out of the plane. But, as long as the chute comes out and I land okay for $10 million, I don't have any problems there. So would you go on like Fear Factor and do all that nasty stuff? Like those cockroaches that they eat, Madagascar cockroaches. I don't know. That seems like that's their favorite thing, to make people eat, these hissing type cockroaches. So just a cup of them, it's not very, Aaron, you could do that without any problem. I mean, Aaron would just throw it back. He would enjoy each cockroach that he would be consuming, thinking he was just a little bit closer to $10 million, just not a problem. They took a survey and they asked people what they would do for $10 million. And I want to share just a few of those things with you. 25% of the people that were surveyed said that they would leave and abandon their family for $10 million. 25%. 1 in 4. You're sitting in the room today. One out of 4 of you say, I would leave my family. They don't mean enough to me. It's, for $10 million, I could buy a nice family, well-rounded. That's a lot of money. $10 million. It said that 23%, so that's just a little less than, 23% of the people surveyed said that they would just totally abandon their church. Like they would, whatever religion, whatever they were into, that they would just give it up for $10 million. And they would just, I guess at that point you just say, I hope my religion was wrong. I don't know. Maybe, for $10 million, maybe I can buy my way to heaven or wherever it is that they were heading. 23% of all the people surveyed, and how should I put this, said that for a week they would have the same occupation as Miss Vivian on Pretty Woman for a week. Somebody's saying, I don't remember what Pretty Woman was about. Well, just 23% of the people would have that same occupation as Miss Vivian. 16% said that they would give up their citizenship in the United States. Just completely. All their rights, everything, for $10 million. They would totally give it up. A couple more. 10% said they would withhold testimony and let a murderer go free. So if they had the information that would, put him in for life, that they would say, for $10 million, it's just one more out on the street. So, what's the big deal? 7% said they'd kill somebody for $10 million. That'd be hard to do right there. And 3%, which I was glad this number was a little smaller, said that they would just give up their own child. For $10 million, they would let them go. Which I guess if 25 said they would abandon their family, then it wouldn't surprise you that 3% would say that they'd give up their child. So people would do a lot, to try to get ahead in this world. And we value things differently, obviously, by the statistics that we see. And so this morning I want to talk about values that we have, what's valuable to you. what's valuable to God. And we'll just go through. This is our last parable that we're going to be doing. And I've been amazed that so many people, as we went through this series of parables, have just said, I've read that before, but I didn't see it that way, or I didn't realize there was so many great parables in the Bible, or, it's neat how Jesus would just tell stories and you'd learn so much from them. And so I've really enjoyed the time that we've had together as we've went through these stories that Jesus has told us and tried to glean from them. So today's story is out of Luke chapter 12, and we're going to start with verse 13. And it's entitled The Parable of the Rich Fool. With verse 13, it says, "Someone in the crowd said to him, 'Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me.' And Jesus replied, 'Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?' Then he said to them," and this, I want you to catch this verse right here, because this is kind of the whole, the meat of what I want to talk about this morning. It says, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in abundance of his possessions." So I'm going to read that again just for emphasis' sake. It says, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kind of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." So here's the parable that Jesus puts along with that, so that the people, the crowd, you got to understand, there's a large crowd that's gathered and they're listening to Jesus, and just a man out of the crowd says to Jesus, "Hey, while you're talking about it, why don't you tell my brother over here that I should get half?" And he responds to this man and to the crowd with this story. It says, "And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. He thought to himself, 'What should I do? I have no place to store my crop.' Then he said, 'This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and I'll build bigger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. I'm going to take it easy for a while. This year's been a good year. I've been able to store enough that I've tore down everything that I had, and I built it brand new so that I could put everything that I had inside of it. You have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy. Drink and be merry." It says, "But God said to him, 'You fool.'" I don't like it when God refers to people as fools. I don't like to be considered a fool. I don't like to do foolish things. It's just not a great word that I enjoy. But he calls this guy a fool. And this is the reason why. Because he said, "This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you've prepared for yourself?" So this guy, for all this time, he's prepped the crops, he's done everything, he's been a good farmer, but he gets very, very comfortable in what he's done and what he's doing. And he says, since it's been so good, and there's been so much abundance, and there's been so much given to me, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build the biggest barns that I can, I'm going to stack it in, and I'm going to sit back, and I am going to be fine. And God says to this fool, he says, "It's amazing to me that you do all of this, and that's where your value is. That's where it is, because you've done all of this, but yet you're not going to be able to enjoy this. You're not going to be able to partake in all of this, even though you think in the back of your mind that that's what you should do and that's where it is. But tonight, this very night, demanded from you is going to be your life." And then it says in verse 21, it says, "This is how it'll be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but is not rich towards God." So today we've got to really look at things that are valuable to us, because that's what this parable is talking about. And it says all kind of greeds or all those type of things that we try to possess and we try to grab hold of. I don't know how popular it is in Oklahoma right now, but I've heard this phrase like several times in my home and several times from just people in the community. That's the new word right there, communio. Yeah, I ran with the gang for a while in Noble. It's the communio. It's a little bit of the dry mouth syndrome there. So anyway, geocaching. Anybody? Okay. Oh, right here we go. Have you ever actually went out and done it, or have you just heard about it? You've done it? You've done it before? Okay. Did you find anything? You found something? Did you find something that was good? No? Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. So here's what happens. There's this kind of craze thing that's going on, and you can get on a website, you can download an app, you can whatever you want to do, and it's going to give you a GPS point that you can go to. And somebody has gone before you, and they have placed something there. A little box, a little cylinder, whatever. And they've placed something in that box of great value. Or let's just say of value. Somebody said the other day that they went and they found like $100 in one of them, And I've never done this before, but I would be interested in going geocaching if I could find $100 in each one that, just GPS, and you drive to the first one and that's $100 for that morning, and then drive to the second one. That'd be a great job. If there was value in it, it'd be worth it, right? So anyway, people just eat this stuff up. They look on their app and on their phone to this app, and all of a sudden it gives them this GPS, and so they go to this one location, and it doesn't just say like, boom, there's the cache, there's the box, there it is, but you've got to find it. So you look in trees and under rocks, and you go all around. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to find that thing of value so that you can write your name down. And the whole part of it is you take whatever the thing of value that the last person put in, and you remove it for yourself. And then you take something that's of value to you and you place it in the box. And so the next guy that comes around, it's a surprise every time that you find one. And so people really get into this, and they really want this treasure at the end of the roadmap. And so they look at their app and they get the direction that they have to go to that place where they need to go, so that eventually they will get the value. I was looking at this story as Jesus was telling it in the Word, and I think the man that had the farm, that was planting everything that he had to plant, that was harvesting and build, he was misguided or something. Maybe he didn't have the right directions in life. He kind of missed the boat on what he was supposed to be doing. And it's really easy if you don't have the right GPS, if you don't type it incorrectly. Have you ever been going somewhere? I went to Decatur, Texas once. I went through Louisiana first, and then it was like I typed in Decatur, Texas, and it took me out and about and way around, and it just misguided me. I was on roads that were not on the GPS thing. It would say turn right at the next stop sign, and I'm like, there's no stop sign. This is like a little dirt road out in the middle of nowhere. This is not a road. And it had taken me and misguided me or misdirected where I was supposed to go. A lot of times that happens in our own lives. We are fine, but sometimes we just get off the path. There was a documentary, and they were talking about wildebeest. I know, how boring is wildebeest. But they were saying these animals would get scared and they would run. And they run in packs, and so when they get scared, they would just take off running. And they'd be gone, you know. And they said after a little bit, short period of time, they would stop. And they're such dumb animals, they said, that when they were scared and they began to run, they were just running because the other animals were running. And then after they ran for just a little bit, they would forget why they were running and they would stop. And then they would do their thing. And then something would scare them and they vroom, and then they would stop. Because they forgot what they were doing it for. The problem is lions are a little smarter than them. And so what would happen is the lion would creep up on them, pounce on one, the wildebeest would scatter and take off running, and they would forget why they were running in the direction that they were going, and they would stop, and they would begin to do whatever that they were doing, and then all of a sudden, it would happen over and over and over. And it just sounds silly, doesn't it? It's kind of like that Alabama song. I'm in a hurry. I'm in a hurry to get things done. Rushing, life's so fun. All I gotta do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and don't know why. What was I doing? Where was I going? Where was I headed? Sometimes in our lives, we're just in a hurry and we're doing life, you know, and we're doing it so rapidly. And we forget sometimes the things around us, the things that... And we just forget the purpose. We forget the reason why we're here. In this parable, God is trying to warn the people that are on the hillside, the man that screams out, "Why don't you give me half of my brother's inheritance?" And Jesus is trying to say, maybe it's not so much about the direction that you're headed. Maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's something else in your life that you need more than that. And so when we read that, it says, don't be so greedy about those things in life. This man was consumed and overwhelmed by getting and getting and getting, that he was not headed in the right direction, that he could live eternal life with God. He thought he was secure. He thought he was right. He thought he was okay. And then all of a sudden, if his life was required of him, everything he had done, everything that he had valued to that point, everything that he had mapped out to get to that place and searched for, there was no value in it whatsoever at the end. And I guess it would be foolish. So what direction are you headed right now? And that's a question that I want to, if I could look you right in the eyes and ask you as individuals, I'd say, what direction are you headed right now? Where are you going? Because if God is not at the end of that, then no matter how much fun you're having, or no matter how great of a dad you are, or how great of a mom you are, or no matter what you're providing for your family, no matter what you've got, at the end, if eternal life doesn't take place with God, then somebody has typed in the wrong concordance for you. Somebody along the way has not helped you out to get to the right place. Because it's miserable to be lost. So, when we were doing that geocaching thing, it was so much fun. I mean, we traveled out in the country and we were looking for this marker and, and it said to go to this place, and we looked and we looked and we looked, and that's all fine for a little while. But if you don't find one of those little boxes where you can sign your name after the first hour or so, it's not fun anymore. You know, you're like, this game's over. We're gonna go a different direction. We're gonna do something different than this. Kiddos, we're going home. Because this isn't what we signed up for. And we change directions. But in our spiritual lives, we're more like the wildebeest. It scares us for a little while, you know, and we say, oh, I got to serve God. Or, you know, God, you could come back in an instant, in a twinkle, you know, in a moment, in a whatever. And we're like, God, and, you know. And then life consumes us, and we get to that point, and we just forget again, and we don't remember, and it just overwhelms us. And then we're back into that same routine. It scares me for our families. It really, really does. Because we feel like that we have to offer our children everything. For some of us, it's because we didn't have anything. For some of us, it's that our parents gave us everything, and so we feel like that we have to give our kids everything. For some, it's just that they just want a better life than what we had. I don't know the reasons. And I'm not saying that. I just want to make this clear. I'm not saying that having things is bad. I like a lot of things that I have, and I don't want to give them up, and I don't have any plans of doing that. I guess that I just have to make sure that there's more value in my children, that there's more value in my family, that there's more value in my walk with Christ than there is with the things of this world. And so if I'm misguided or misdirected, I've got to change that. I got to change it now. Because if I don't change it, and I get to a place in my life where something is required of me that I can't provide, then I'm in trouble. God says, this very night your soul will be required of you. And if I can't provide him a life that's been turned over to him and serving him and guiding and directing my family towards him and doing the best that I can, then at that time, he is going to look at me and he's going to say, you know, you thought you knew who I was, but you really don't, do you? And it'll be pretty easy for him, I think. Because when he starts recalling all the things in our life that we did, and you say, oh, I thought that was supposed to be as far as the east is from the west. He said he was going to never, ever remember those things ever, ever again. For those that got a new direction, for those that changed the concordance and decided to go a different direction than where they were, for those that weren't blinded and saying that all of this makes my family happy, so I'll provide all of this for them, but yet does not have the ability to provide them spiritual guidance, he's going to look at us and he's going to say, I'm sorry, but you can't stay here. Did you feel what I just felt? Did you feel that? I felt it in my body. What? I can't stay here? What, why? Why can't I stay here? Why can't I be in this place? And he says, because you took everything you thought that was valuable and you stored it up. You bought it. You covered it. You wrote it, you did all of these things. And you thought this was where the value was at, when the value the whole time was in the relationship that you have with me. How many times are we misguided or misdirected in that relationship? And it's a lot. It's a lot. We let friends take us in places and we run with them. We will let our spouses take us places and we'll run with them. We'll let our children take us places and we will run with them. And it all looks like, why in the world have we done this? Why have we put ourselves in this position or in this place?
I think God wants us to remind us this morning. Value is not in things of this world. But you have to be determined today to be able to find those things that are valuable in your life. I want you to look with me real quick in Colossians, just a couple verses today, 3 and 1 through 2. Since then you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on things above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. So you have to be determined today to set your mind not on earthly things, but on heavenly things, on spiritual things. We don't do a great job at that at times, about setting our mind on heavenly things. We really are consumed with the jobs we have, the world that we're within. And sometimes when we come into a place where we're surrounded by spiritual people, we then will start to adapt some of those spiritual things into our life. But for the most part, if we're not really, really careful, we find ourselves not setting our mind on things above, but we set our minds on things that are here. About what we can obtain, what we can get, how we can get it, what we can do for it. And it's proven by statistics that we just read and talked about just a few minutes ago. For any amount of money, would you give your family up? Any amount of money. You could offer me $10 million or $2, and it doesn't matter the value that you place on them. But they're priceless to me. And so I'm not going to set my mind on things of this earth that would get in the way of me trying to help my family think on things above. I'm determined today. You're determined today to make sure. That's the process that we go through on a daily basis to be able to get to the point where the value is. It's a process, and you're determined each and every day that you're going to set your mind on things above. I want you to look with me in 2 Corinthians chapter 9. Verses 7 through 8. It says, each man should give what he has decided in his own heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And we use this verse normally to try to get a nickel out of your pocket. You know, God loves a cheerful giver. And here's the plate, and I want you to put it in there happily. Smile when you give. And that's all fine and dandy, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about things of value. Each man should give what he has decided in his own heart to give. Each man should search after, each man should find. He's going to give that effort. He's going to dedicate a certain amount to God. Whatever that is that you dedicate to Him, then that's what you should do. But when you do it, you should do it out of love. You should do it out of joy. You should passionately follow Christ in such a way that it's not like, man, I got to go and I've got to pray. Oh my goodness, I've got to read, 2 chapters tonight, because that's what I do, is read 2 chapters a night in the Word. Whatever you decide to give is what you decide to give. But whatever that value is that you give, it better be from a heart that is loving and kind and passionate towards God. I'm going to recap real quick. 3 things. The direction you're going, whether or not you're determined to get there, and how much dedication it takes to be able to find the thing of value that you want to find. Well, I guess that's kind of how this rich farmer was. He was misguided. He was determined that he was going to put all his stuff up and save it. And he was dedicated to doing it. But when his life was required, he received nothing in return. Nothing in return. Jesus was on a hillside. There was thousands of people, and a man says, I want half of my brother's inheritance. And Jesus replies, watch out. Be on your guard against it. Be on your guard against all kind of greed. Because a man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions only. And so what that verse means to me today is, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Do we get it? I mean, do we really get it? I just want to make sure, because I don't want to leave this place today. And I'm not telling you that your stuff is wrong. Once again, I'm just saying when the emphasis is on it more than it is the spiritual in our family's life, it takes place. Anything of this earth, it takes place. It's held at a higher value than the relationship we have with God. One more thing, real quick. You say, well, that doesn't apply. Well, then how much time do you spend with that thing that we're talking about? And then how much time do you spend with the God that we're talking about? We got a new four-wheeler the other day. Did some trading. That four-wheeler will do. I looked it up. I was talking to Landell. I said, I think that thing will do 100 miles an hour. Landell's like, I don't know about that. That's all, 92 miles an hour is what Google says. This thing will fly. It will fly. Suzuki LTZ 400 quad something another. When this guy backed it off or pulled it out of the truck, I was just like, I was just thinking, wow. All we did that day was played on that four-wheeler. That's all we did. We didn't care about the Sea-Doo that was in the barn anymore. We didn't care about the horses that are in the pasture. We didn't care about... All we did was played on that. It consumed us. Because that was it. That was the valuable thing of the day. I don't think anybody wrote it yesterday. And I don't think anybody wrote it the day before that. I think maybe the day before that, one person in the family wrote it for about 20 minutes. It's just really not that important. You see what I'm saying? I got to finish. I got to finish. I got to go. Things come and go. The four-wheeler, it'll go on Craigslist. It'll be gone. It'll be gone. And then we're going to want something else to play with. It'll come and it'll go. There is no value in it whatsoever. But my kid's salvation, that's something that is day after day after day after day after day that you cannot put a price on it. Your salvation today, it is day after day after day after day of you dedicating and deciding for yourself that you're going to follow Him, and that you have purpose, and that you have reason, and that your life is not just running and stopping and then just forgetting why you were running or why you were living.